There is no indication in the Quran of any substantial corruption or complete extermination of the Torah and the Gospel. If there was, the numerous times the Quran makes mention of them would have no reasonable application. The Christians and the Jews cannot judge by what has been revealed to them if they no longer have it. If the Torah and the Gospel are God's words and no one can change God's words, an accusation of corruption towards the Torah and the Gospel is one that either makes the God of the Quran out to be a liar or incapable of doing what he says he can do. But this brings me back to chapter 5 verse 46 and 47 of the Quran. In order to take this passage seriously, a passage that addresses me personally as a person of the gospel, a Christian, I run into a problem. If I judge the Quran by the gospel, which I am commanded to do in order to not be one of the defiantly disobedient, I find that the Quran misunderstands, lacks comprehension of, and outright contradicts the Torah and the gospel. So if the Quran is true, and I obey it in this instance, by the standards it tells me to judge by, I find the Quran false.
Christians often ask, if the Quran confirms the Bible, how can they claim that the Bible was altered or tampered with? Let's explore this with history and facts. First, the Quran confirms the original revelations given to Abraham, Moses, David, and Jesus, but it also states that human hands later altered the text. In Quran 2:75 it says, "Do you then hope that they would believe in you? And the party from among them indeed used to hear the word of Allah, then altered it after they understood it, and they know this." Scholars have confirmed these changes. John H. Hayes, an Old Testament scholar, wrote, "Rabbinical references provide evidence that the pre-Masoretic scribes went so far as to alter the text itself." Toy, in Judaism and Christianity added, scribes permitted themselves to introduce new material into the text. Why were these changes made? As explained by Hayes, many changes were made to make the text more theologically acceptable by altering expressions that seem irreverent. Examples include Genesis 18:22, which originally read, "Yahweh stood before Abraham," was changed to "Abraham stood before Yahweh." Exodus 8:17 changed "my God's nose" to "their nose." These deliberate edits were attempts to remove anthropomorphic descriptions of God. Not only were descriptions of God altered, but the name of God, Allah, was also removed. Hebrew terms like El and Elohim were originally written with an A sound, not E. McGregor Mathers confirmed Elo is written in Hebrew as ALH or Allah. The Tiberian scribes introduced vowel markings in the 5th century to conceal this fact. By changing Allah to El, they replaced Allah's name with corrupted terms like Elohim. Greek philosophy also played a major role in altering the Jewish concept of God. By the 2nd century BCE, Jewish thinkers like Aristobulus and Philo-Judaeus embraced Greek ideas, interpreting scripture allegorically. The Encyclopedia Judaica states the God of Philo, owing to the influence of Platonism, is not only essentially different from man, but entirely devoid of attributes. Philo even rejected the idea of God as an active worker, saying activity could not be predicated of a being with no attributes. This shift replaced the anthropomorphic God of the prophets with the incorporeal God of Greek philosophers. To further distance God from humanity, Jewish scribes used the figure of the angel of the Lord in scripture. In many cases, this angel was simply God himself in human form. For example, in Judges 13, Manoah's wife described the angel who visited her as a man of God with a countenance like an angel of God. Later, her husband asked this man, "Are you the one who spoke to my wife?" The man replied, "I am." This response mirrors God's own declaration to Moses in Exodus 3:14, "I am that I am." After the man ascended to heaven in a flame, Manoah declared, "We have seen God." These passages show that the angel of the Lord was a theological device to obscure God's anthropomorphic nature. Even the Jewish Encyclopedia admits there is a definite method in the efforts of the scribes to substitute new terms or remodel entire accounts. This trend continued with the Greek Septuagint, where the image of God was translated as the glory of God. The anthropomorphic God of Scripture was deliberately abstracted. The Quran isn't in conflict with the Bible. It confirms the truth of the original revelations but calls out the changes made by human hands. Ask yourself, if Jewish and Christian scholars agree that Scripture was altered, how much of what we read today reflects God's original message? As Muslims, we honor the revelations given to Abraham, Moses, David, and Jesus, but we also follow the Quran's guidance to distinguish the truth from alteration. So please continue to reflect, research, and seek out the truth. Peace and assalamu alaikum.